Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I have a fun little keyboard review for you guys. So today I have a fun one. I'm going to be reviewing a vintage keyboard. For those of you who might not know, I do enjoy vintage keyboards every now and then. They are a little bit on the big side, but I just love knowing where like my hobby's roots are. With that being said, today I am reviewing the Dell AT101W keyboard. Oftentimes people refer to this as a Bigfoot keyboard, and as you can see, it's a very justifiable nickname. This keyboard is huge. It weighs a couple pounds. And it is a full-size keyboard. As you can see, it has all the, the main board. It has the F row, or the function row, and then it has a number pad and arrow keys as well. So this is a giant keyboard. It is actually one of the later Dell keyboards because it does have the more modern Dell logo right here. So as you can see right here, it has the big fat Dell logo with the rotated E. And the earlier versions have like the Dell logo on it, but in more of like a sans serif font, or sans serif. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry about that. But yeah, this is from a keyboard line that Dell made in the 90s for their PCs and stuff. So I define anything as more than 20 years old as vintage. Like that applies to clothing. Not sure if it applies to keyboards, but who's to say? So anyways, this is my Bigfoot keyboard. This version right here was actually made in Mexico, so nice to have a keyboard that my people made. This has obviously like gotten a little bit yellowed with time. I do have the keycap for this right here. See? I just wanted to take it off to be able to show you guys the switch that this keyboard has. So I did find this keyboard at a thrift store actually. It was a pretty nice find. It cost me less than $5, and I said, why not? Like I hardly ever find, old keyboards in thrift stores anymore, so it was a very cool find. So anyways, I took this keyboard home, cleaned it up like it was super dirty, super nasty. I had to take off all the keycaps. I had to disassemble the board itself as well because there was just like a bunch of dust and like nasty stuff caught in between all the layers of the board. Speaking of layers of the board, this does have a metal layer underneath it, so that's probably what makes up, some of the bulk of its weight. But yeah, this is a very cool keyboard because it does come with these Alps switches. So Alps switches have a very long and complicated history behind them, which I'm going to save to explain to you guys for a future video. But these in particular on the Dell AT101W are a Black SKCM complicated tactile switch. So by tactile, that means that there is a bump when you press down on the keyboard. So hopefully the camera can focus in on it and you can see that this keyboard or this switch looks very cool. It looks like, a big giant box. So very cool. By the way, my fingernails are not dirty. I recently dyed my hair because it's a dark brown color. I dyed it to black, and so whenever I touch my head or scratch my head, some of the dye gets on my nails, so it looks like I have dirty nails, but I do not. So don't at me for that. So this keyboard does actually have a very cool history behind it. So I mentioned that it was one of the later models because it does have the more modern Dell logo on it. However, the earlier versions of this keyboard did come with Salmon Alps switches, and they all came with like PBT keycaps as well. So I believe that these ones right here are laser engraved ABS plastic, so they're a bit of a like thinner, more flimsy kind of plastic, but still have held up throughout the years. So the reason this is called the AT101W is because, as you can see, it comes with a Windows key on it. So the W key is on here, hence the abbreviation W for Windows. So the reason that these Black Alps switches are referred to as a complicated Alp switch is because there are two different kinds of Alp switches out there, the complicated and the simplified switches. So these are considered complicated because it mostly refers to the switch plate that's underneath it. So these are plate mounted keycaps, and on the switch plate, like they have like a kind of like, I'm not really sure how to explain it without a picture, so I'll probably put one either right here or right here for you guys to be able to check it out. I'll put like a little diagram and stuff to show you guys. But anyways, so the switch plate underneath it, it looks like kind of like a little tiny like flat, I don't know, plane, if you may, like a, I didn't want to say plate, but it's kind of like a little like flat plane, along with like some little like metal underbearings as well. So over time, as they kept producing and working on the Alp switch, they were simplified. So the earlier versions are called the complicated Alp switches. So another reason that these are referred to as complicated switches is that the tactile or the clicky little thing inside of the switch is actually a separate part from the switch itself. So you know, like in regular cherry switches, how it's part of the key, or not the keycap, how it's part of the switch where you press down and there's like a little like bump inside the switch. This is actually separate, so I'll put some more pictures up to be able to show you guys. Like I said, I'm not trying to like go into, you know, specifics on this because it is more of a keyboard review rather than a switch review, but it is a separate part, so hence it's more complicated than like a linear out switch. I'm going to try my best to like be able to like clack these as loud as I can so you guys can so the mic can pick up on the sound, because as you can see, it is very loud. These are black switches, so of course the sound is going to be a little bit louder than other colors, if you may. And you know, it's a vintage keyboard, so of course it's also going to be like super loud. Can you imagine back in the 90s, you know, having like your office mate like clacking away on one of these? Super loud. But you know, part of the reason why it is a little bit loud is because these switches right here just have like a very nice feeling and sound. They're more, cause like they're more complicated switch stack right here, like, you know, all the different parts, it kind of smooths out everything. So because the switch is complicated, their complicated switch stack kind of like smooths out the travel of the sound and makes it sound like a bit more bassier and louder than, you know, your regular keyboard. So sounds pretty good to me. Let me put this keycap back on it because I'm sure it's probably bothering some of you guys. The keycaps itself are very easy to remove. You know, just pop one off, as opposed to other boards where like you kind of have to like almost disassemble the whole switch in order to get the keycap off. But it's a very cool board. There are more versions of the AT101. Like I said, this one has the Windows key, hence why it's referred to the W. The other AT101 version does not have the Windows key, so that's why it's, you know, no W in it. And there are more vintage Dell keyboards out there. However, I just haven't been able to find any more. Or I haven't really looked for any, because I'm trying to like build a more modern board rather than expand on my vintage keyboard collection. But a very solid keyboard, very heavy. It has a very long cable. Like, that's the thing I noticed with like all these vintage keyboards, is that they have like ridiculously long cables. Like, I'm like, damn, who needs this much, cable space? But this keyboard does actually have a PS2 connector on it. So you do need a converter for that, or a port for it. So I haven't really been able to get much use out of it, unfortunately. I do break this keyboard out every now and then. However, I'm just not a big fan of full-size keyboards, so hence why I don't really use it that often. But I mean, it's a very nice keyboard. I don't have any qualms with it besides, the size of it, as well as the heaviness of it. Because with desk space being so limited, I'm phrasing that incorrectly, because there is a keyboard for everyone out there. Everyone does have their own preferences and tastes, and some people are all about the giant bigfoots right here, but it's just not me. I don't have a lot of desk space, so I try to limit myself to more smaller keyboards. But this would work perfectly for anyone who does find themselves reaching for that function row, the arrow cluster, or the number pad. Works very well for any vintage enthusiasts, any Alps enthusiasts. However, one problem I do have about it is that the Alps on this, like the black switch, is a little bit scratchy. Of course it is supposed to be a tactile switch, but just pressing on it doesn't give me the exact same smooth, buttery feeling that you might get from another kind of switch. I understand that Alps do have different feelings compared to buckling springs or cherry switches or box switches, whatever. What have you. I know that there's a difference, but just these ones in particular feel a little bit scratchy. It's probably due to being old, as well as I'm sure this keyboard wasn't cared for properly for many years, because it took me at least 2 days to clean everything out of this. It was so disgusting, but in the end it was worth it. So I'm just gonna clack on it a bit for you guys. Hopefully you'll be able to hear the joy of typing on this. I should make some typing videos. I see those are very popular with the YouTube crowd. So this might be drowning out my voice, and that's because it is really that loud in person. Hopefully if I ever go to another keyboard meetup and see any of you guys there, I'll bring this giant Bigfoot with me, so that way you can see how loud it is in person, as well as click on it, because I know lots of people don't really have the opportunity to type on any vintage keyboards. So that's what meets are for, But yeah, that was my short, simple little keyboard review. Hopefully you guys liked it. I do have one more vintage keyboard to review. Hopefully I'll have another one by the time I have to review that one. So, thanks so much for watching me. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for, all the nice comments and support. It really does mean a lot to me, especially considering that, I'm very, I'm a little small fry in the giant YouTube world, and a small fry as well as in the mechanical keyboard hobby. So any support, any kind wishes, any encouragement that I get is very much appreciated. I just wanted to put that out there. I do appreciate you guys. I see every little comment, every little thumbs up, every time someone reaches out to me, to either give me some constructive criticism or words of encouragement. I do take it to heart, so just thanks so much. I'm gonna try my best to be more consistent with my videos. I'll try my best to do more research for my videos, as well as think about what content to put out there for you guys. So as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you the next time. Bye bye.